Good afternoon. My name is Kimberly Pryor. I'm with the Virginia Department of Transportation. Thank you for attending today's Staunton District Virtual Spring Meeting. We will start off with brief remarks by Secretary Valentine and others, and then move on to the public comment period. Madam Secretary, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Kim Pryor, and really thank you so much for organizing all of these meetings. You do an outstanding job. Hello to everyone from Staunton. I cannot tell you how much we wish we could be with you in person, and I'm really hoping that for the fall meetings that will happen. But I really thank all of you for your time and attention this afternoon. We very much would like to hear from you if you get a chance. All of us have been living through quite a remarkable year. I just want to assure you that throughout it, our top priority has been the health and safety of our employees, our customers, and our partners. And as we have done that, we have made a commitment across the entire Secretariat, from the Port of Virginia to rail, to trucking, to aviation, to barges, to the port, everywhere, that we made a commitment to transport critical goods and to make sure we were connecting people to essential work, food, medicine. As we have done that, we've also been managing the financial implications of COVID, which is now predicted to affect transportation revenues by about $680 million through FY22. That is quite a significant reduction. However, because of two significant decisions made in 2020, I believe that Virginia has been managing this process as well as any state could. In January of 2020, the governor's Omnibus transportation package was passed. It was a package that restructured our transportation funding, tied it to CPI, and it created the governance structure for passenger rail, and it also made a financial commitment to a multimodal transportation system. That was a very important decision. Two, during the special session of 2020, the governor introduced a budget amendment that would give the Commonwealth Transportation Board flexibility just for the biennium to manage these reductions by reallocating resources so that every dollar we have could be put to work, so that those projects receiving funding in the early years and not requiring the funding until the later years in a 6-year plan could be put on projects. And as a result, every project in our pipeline has remained in the program on budget and on time according to their own schedules. And because of those decisions, as we are making our rounds to our public hearings, again virtually, we today are coming to you with a 6-year improvement plan with 3,900 projects in it, totaling $21.4 billion over the 6-year program. That is very significant. And today I have with me to discuss specifics within that work from our VDOT Commissioner, Steve Britch, our Director of the Department of Rail and Public Transportation, Jennifer Mitchell. We have the CTV member, our new member. I guess you're not that new, Mr. Merrill, but he's been with us the shortest amount of time. He replaced Dixon Whitworth. We have Mr. Mark Merrill, and you all are so fortunate to have him, and our district engineer, Randy Kaiser, who keeps all of us jumping, by the way. And so with that, Commissioner Britch, I'll go ahead and let you get started.
Madam Secretary, thank you very much for the introduction. It is great to be here in Staunton. I wish we were there in person, certainly to be able to get out and see the roadways that we have. Part of today's conversation will be with regard to the 6-year improvement program, and we're very excited to have your feedback on the draft program as it's being presented today. Before I start, I'd like to touch on two points before we get into the 6-year improvement program, one of which is safety, and the second being our response to COVID-19, the global pandemic. With regard to safety, April is traditionally the Highway Safety Month in Virginia. Governor Northam did announce during his tenure that he did make April being Highway Safety Month. And VDOT is fortunate to be partnering with several of our sister agencies to heighten the awareness of the importance for highway safety. And those sister agencies include the Virginia State Police, the Department of Motor Vehicles, the Department of Health, and the Department of Education. Fortunately, this week that we're observing National Work Zone Awareness Week. This is a national effort to be able to highlight the importance of work zone safety. This year's theme is Drive Safe, Work Safe, and Save Lives. This theme emphasizes the part that everyone plays to keep workers and the motorists safe in our work zones. Yesterday, we celebrated Go Orange Day, so many of you may have seen our employees wearing orange, and that was to support all of our highway workers and the men and women that work on our roads each and every day. Switching gears slightly, I'd like to mention what our response has been during the global pandemic, COVID-19. Last year was certainly a challenge for all of us. The pandemic required unprecedented flexibility and adaptability, and the department staff certainly responded extremely well. Our primary focus as the pandemic set in was focused on in protecting our employees. We needed to ensure the safety of our workforce was met. We had to adjust immediately to a whole new operating environment, from our field crews working in socially distant conditions to our office workers having to embrace teleworking. But even with the global pandemic, VDOT has continued to deliver our services nonstop. I'm happy to report that the department has continued to hold virtual public hearings such as this one, has continued to engage our public and our stakeholders in each of our projects. As the Secretary has indicated, we have advertised our projects on time, awarded our projects on time, and continue to hire consultants and contractors to be able to meet our needs. We've continued to keep those projects that we have in the 6-year plan moving ahead on time and on budget without any reduction in those projects. So I'd like to say that we kept our foot on the gas pedal this whole time. Now, specific to the purpose why we're here this evening, this is to provide an overview of our 6-year improvement program. So for fiscal year 22 through 2027, our highway construction program that VDOT is responsible for will be valued at nearly $16 billion. To be exact, $15.7 billion. The program provides funding for more than 3,900 projects, and we're unique in that this includes $4.1 billion of funding to be provided by others, our partners such as Northern Virginia Transportation Authority, the Hampton Roads Transportation Accountability Commission, Central Virginia Transportation Authority, and our public-private partnerships that are out there. The program fully implements the new transportation funding formula approved by the governor and the General Assembly in this past summer in 2020. Now, there are several programs that we will be updating this year that we did not last year, and that includes the State of Good Repair for paving, the State of Good Repair for bridge, unpaved roads, our Innovation and Technology Transportation Fund, and of course, Smart Scale. In addition to those program areas, we've been working with our regional partners to update the regional surface transportation and congestion mitigation and air quality programs. In addition to that, we've added 2 new programs as a result of the legislation that the Secretary indicated. That includes the Interstate Operations and Enhancement Program, and the other program is the Virginia Highway Safety Improvement Program. Now, each of these new projects and funding areas can be viewed in our 6-year improvement program at the website at this URL at the bottom. So I highly encourage each participant to be able to view this. And this will give you an overview of what projects are being at least program for consideration in the upcoming 6-year improvement program. So with that being said, Madam Secretary, that concludes my comments, and I'll send it back to you.
Thank you. And I just want everyone to know what an outstanding job you have done in managing VDOT and all these projects through such uncertain times, and that a lot of the work in maintaining our pipeline of projects and not canceling projects or delaying work or laying off workers is really due to your work and that of Jennifer Mitchell. So I really thank you for that. It makes a huge difference in Virginia moving forward. It's how we can best contribute to the recovery and the growth of Virginia's economy. So thank you. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Director Mitchell. She and I and a few others who are attending this night were able to announce the commercial close of some definitive agreements recently and announcing our Transforming Rail in Virginia. So Jennifer, with that, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Great, thank you very much, Secretary Valentine. Very pleased to be here today in the Staunton District. I do wish as well that we were in person, but it is good to see you all at least virtually, and look forward to hearing comments later. A little bit about what's in our 6-year plan this year for the Department of Rail and Public Transportation. This, in fiscal year 22, we'll be allocating over $1 billion in federal and state funds to public transportation and rail programs. Of that, $756 million is for public transportation, and that includes about $21 million for our new transit ridership incentive program. And that is providing funding for both low fare and zero fare programs for transit. We will also be allocating $266 million in rail funding, and that's $88 million for Transforming Rail in Virginia, $83.5 million for the expansion of intercity passenger rail to Roanoke and the New River Valley, and another $83.5 million for the improvement of commuter rail service along VRE's Manassas line. As far as our Transforming Rail in Virginia program goes, this is the initiative that Secretary Valentine mentioned that we just announced, that we had completed the definitive agreements, and this is a partnership between the Commonwealth, CSX, and Amtrak and VRE. Through this, we will be doubling our state-supported service by 2030 across the state, and also expanding VRE service in both the Fredericksburg and Manassas line corridors. In the Manassas line, still subject to Norfolk Southern's agreement as well. But we will be able to also provide, for the first time, weekend and VRE service, or weekend and late night VRE service. As part of that agreement, we are acquiring 384 miles of CSX's right-of-way and 223 miles of track in several corridors paralleling I-95, I-64, and I-85. That includes half of CSX's right-of-way between Washington, D.C. and Petersburg, Virginia. All of their right-of-way on a line called the S line, which is an abandoned line between Petersburg and Ridgeway, North Carolina. And then nearly all of their right-of-way on a line called the Buckingham Branch, which goes from Doswell and to Clifton Forge. In addition to that, all of the track that we will be acquiring will become Virginia property, in addition to station facilities and platforms on those lines as well. We'll be building another 37 miles of new rail infrastructure and building a new 2-track bridge across the Potomac River, which is referred to as the Long Bridge. And every passenger train and commuter train that we have today goes over that bridge, along with CSX's freight traffic. The bridge itself is at 98% capacity during the peak and is one of the most significant rail bottlenecks on the entire East Coast. So in order to oversee these projects, we've also created a new Virginia Passenger Rail Authority, which is governed by a separate board, and we have currently hired an executive director and several senior staff, and we're in the process of mobilizing that new rail authority over the next several months. So as far as our 6-year plan highlights, on the transit side, this is the 3rd year that we've used our merit prioritization process to select projects. We received a total of $216 million in applications, and that was for 592 projects. That's the largest request we have received in recent fiscal years. However, it wasn't unexpected. It's consistent with an assessment of capital needs that we did back in 2019. Consistent with CTB's policy, that means we're prioritizing state of good repair projects first, and we will not be funding any major expansion projects this year at all. For State of Good Repair, that funds projects in replacement of assets that are within 95% of their useful life. We evaluated 451 applications and funded 374 State of Good Repair projects. We'll be funding 62 minor enhancement projects, which includes some expansion vehicles, technology, and maintenance projects as well. This year, we provided an additional $7.8 million for electric buses, and that's funding through our Volkswagen Mitigation Trust Fund, which is a partnership between us and the Department of Environmental Quality to fund new buses across the state using all electric technology. We funded 19 buses this year through that fund. That includes funds for Valley Metro in Roanoke, Blacksburg Transit, and the Fairfax Connector. We also provide operating assistance as well, and this has been an unprecedented year for transit agencies as they've struggled to deal with COVID-19, the additional cost associated with that, and also with declining ridership. So we are providing an additional 2% in operating funding this year, which will provide an increase in funding for all of the agencies across the state. We allocate funds through what's called our special program, and that includes some of our federal COVID relief funding that was received for human service transportation and transportation for rural transit providers. We're also funding commuter assistance programs, which are focusing on the return to transit service. As far as return to transit service as well, we are funding marketing and research related to a demonstration project that we received from the Federal Transit Administration that's focused on ensuring the transit agency best practices in public education about transit safety. As far as the Staunton District, we're allocating $15.5 million in funding. That includes both federal, state, and local funds, including $741,000 in operating funding for the Central Shenandoah Planning District Commission. We're also funding a transit development plan for CSPDC. We're providing operating funding for the city of Harrisonburg, funding for new buses, and also technical assistance for a microtransit feasibility study in Harrisonburg. We're providing operating funding for the city of Winchester and commuter assistance program grants for CSPDC and the North Shenandoah Valley Regional Commission through their Ride Smart program. We're funding new paratransit vehicles for our human service transportation agencies. Here in the Staunton District, that includes Rockbridge Area Transportation System, Shenandoah Area Agency on Aging, Friendship Industries, Grafton School, Northwest Community Services Board, Pleasant View Incorporated, and ARC of Harrisonburg and Rockingham. On the rail side, we're providing a preservation grant for the Shenandoah Valley Railroad in Rockingham County, and that includes funding for a bridge redecking and a safety walkway. We're funding a number of statewide rail planning projects, including service development planning, an update of our state rail plan, and a study of the Commonwealth Corridor, which would be a new east-west corridor connecting Hampton Roads, Richmond, Charlottesville, and other points west. With that, I'm very pleased again to be here. Look forward to hearing comments, and I'll turn it back to you, Secretary Valentine.
Thank you. And as for those of you who are with us this afternoon, you can see that Jennifer, Director Mitchell, is leading DRPT at such an exciting time for the Commonwealth and within the Staunton District as well. It's now my opportunity to introduce Mark Merrill. Like his predecessor, Dixon Whitworth, he brings such a business perspective and a fiduciary responsibility to this position. We really thank you, Mr. Merrill, for your incisive questions as we are moving projects and programs forward, and I welcome you this evening.
Thank you very much, Madam Secretary, and I'd also like to commend the work that you and your team have done. Director Mitchell and Commissioner Bridge are doing fabulous work, so the residents of the Commonwealth of Virginia should know that your transportation system is in very good hands. I first want to thank the constituents of the Staunton District for your warm welcome. I know I have big shoes to fill with the work of Mr. Dixon Whitworth, but I'm very proud to be part of this organization and also proud to represent the district. The Staunton District has had a reputation of providing good feedback from these 6-year improvement plan updates, so we hope that you will be candid with us today. A couple of updates in addition to what you heard from the Commissioner, the Secretary, and the Director. I really want to thank the Jennifer, for the work you're doing, particularly to serve some of the less fortunate among us. The Shenandoah Area Agency on Aging, Grafton, any of your work. These are underserved populations. It's great for transit to be available for these individuals because it really does give them a life of much more enrichment and job opportunities. So it's fabulous that we can get transit to these populations. As you heard from Director Mitchell, roughly $15 million in rail and transit in our region, which is wonderful. Many of you are familiar with the Smart Scale operation. This year, the Staunton district submitted 45 projects for funding at just over $220 million. I'm pleased to report that 21 of those projects have been funded at a total cost of roughly $80 million. The final decisions on the Smart Scale allocation will be made by the Commonwealth Transportation Board at their June meeting, but we were very pleased to see so many of our projects get approved in this particular district. Other items that are particularly important is to remind everyone that the Smart Scale funding algorithm has changed. So it is now a 45% state of good repair, 27% high priority projects, and 27% district grants. So that is a change from previous allocations, and there's likely a tweaking of that going forward. So more of that to come in the future. The other major item I'd just like to highlight very quickly is the I-81 Corridor Improvement Program. As many of you know, the legislature and the governor approved legislation to commit substantial funds to improve the I-81 corridor. So the Staunton district has actually the longest section of I-81. I believe, Randy, it's about 150 miles of the 320-mile corridor. So work is underway in that domain. Dave Covington is the project manager, and there's information available on a website called i81.org that can keep you apprised. There's both operational improvements like truck slowing lanes, climbing lanes, enhancements to exit ramps, and clearly over time, when the funding is when the bond funding is approved, work will commence on the widening of lanes, in particular in Harrisonburg and in Winchester, where we'll go from 4 lanes to 6 lanes. But there are also a number of safety improvements to install lighting, improved response from the VDOT traffic engineers to accidents on the highway, as well as warning signs for weather and future traffic congestions. Finally, as someone who thinks this area is particularly beautiful, I would like to note that I'm very excited that VDOT has launched a new campaign called Virginia is for Lovers, Not Litter. We have beautiful highways in the Commonwealth and byways and scenic routes, as well as the interstates are actually spectacularly beautiful. So if you go to the website, loversnotlitter.org, we encourage you to take the pledge. It pains me to think that people can have a fast food restaurant and have the bag full and not be able to take an empty bag when they depart their car. So we encourage all Commonwealth residents to take the pledge. It's at loversnotlitter.org so that Virginia remains for lovers, not litters. So thank you very much, and I'll turn it back to you, Madam Secretary.
Yes, I will say, Mr. Merrill, that that's one of our most important programs, launching the litter campaign, and a great deal of thanks to Rob Carey for leading the environmental effort, and everyone VDOT in the Secretary's office and across DRPT and all DMV, everybody who's really working to get that word out. We invest a lot, but I have really learned that litter is a magnet for more litter. So we all need to do our part. I will just say, when you mentioned the I-81 corridor improvement plan, I just still continue to give great thanks to the legislators along the I-81 corridor, Republicans and Democrats, Governor Northam, so many advocates and associations and chambers along I-81 and the Virginia Trucking Association, who came to the table to work with us to identify the funding for this, and then the regional funding along the corridor from the governor's omnibus bill. It was a full partnership in bringing this together, and I am still grateful. So thank you. With that,
so are all of us who live along the 81 corridor. So
yes. Well, someday, yes, it was just that was a little miracle how all of that came together. So anyway, thank you. And with that, I'm going to introduce Randy Kaiser, who I'm actually going to see in person next week. I'm going to see Mr. Merrill as well. Going to see you next week. I will tell you that when Mr. Merrill, came into my position, I made the rounds, went to all the districts. I never laughed so hard. coming into the Staunton district. I still smile. It makes me just laugh and makes you feel great to be there. So with Randy, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. I really appreciate those positive comments. And again, thank you for everybody for joining us this afternoon. I'm really appreciate everybody out there taking the time out of your schedule to participate in these very unusual times. I know I miss seeing you in person. The part that I enjoy most with these meetings is the in-person interaction before and after. And hopefully, like the Secretary and the Commissioner mentioned earlier, that we can meet again in person very soon so we can get this pandemic behind us. We also, as you heard the Secretary say, we're very fortunate to have a very engaged and a quick study new Commonwealth Transportation Board member, as you've heard. He's been briefed on the 45 smart scale applications. He's asking a lot of good questions, as you heard Madam Secretary say, and he's absorbing a lot of transportation data. I know he spent the day in Richmond with our commissioner and staff to really absorbing all that information. So he definitely got a quick study. He understands transportation. I'm amazed how quickly he's getting up to speed on transportation in Staunton district. So we're very blessed in that regard. But again, I'd like to welcome everybody to Staunton District. Staunton District serves 11 counties, and I feel like we're located in the most beautiful area in the Commonwealth here in the Shenandoah Valley and Allegheny Highlands. We're responsible for 14,000 lane miles. I feel like it's the best maintained and the most scenic roads in the Commonwealth. These roads really fuel a very diverse economy for more than 500,000 residents located here within Staunton District. Our roadway network also includes 81, 64, and 66. And as you heard our CTB member mention, we also maintain 150 miles of 81, which is in the early stages of a $2 billion corridor improvement program. And this one interstate carries nearly half of Virginia's interstate commercial traffic. And we currently have 23 capital projects at $850 million that are planned. And we've already got 6 projects completed, I'm glad to report. We got 3 under construction right now, and we have another 2 being advertised that will be underway shortly this summer. And we have 6 that are very active in the design phase. Those are the more complex projects. And we have 6 more projects in the out years of the 6-year plan. The PE will be starting in 2023 timeframe. And also use the Improve 81 organization website. Just type in Google Improve 81, you'll find it. It's a wealth of information. Our program delivery director does an outstanding job with our communication staff at giving you regular updates on where we're at and how the program is moving forward. Just to kind of hit the wave tops of some of the highlights in Staunton District. Some of the major highlights were widening in both directions, 3 lanes adjacent to the cities of Winchester, Harrisonburg, and Staunton. In addition, we're doing truck climbing lanes in both directions in the Weir's Cave area. And we are adding a 3rd southbound lane beginning at the I-66 interchange, ending at our Strasburg exit. Also, Staunton District has the luxury of having the over 3,500 bridges and structures we have to maintain. That's more than any of the districts in the Commonwealth because we're at the headwaters, so we have a lot of structures. So we definitely have to stay on our toes to keep those structures in good shape. Give you some highlights on the draft 6-year plan that was just recently released. More than $173 million are allocated to the Smart Scale program, including nearly $81 million in the recommended scenario for the new Smart Scale of round 4. And just make the comment, that's recommended. So we really need to know your feedback to see whether or not that recommended scenario is good, or do we need to make some changes in that. Also, we nearly have $160 million allocated to bridge and paving projects through the State of Good Repair program that heard our CTB member mention. And we also got $8.6 million in new funding to address deficient VDOT and locally maintained pavements, and also $18 million in new funding to address structurally deficient bridges. And we got those in the town of Covington. I know the Rayon Bridge, if we got someone from the city of Covington listening in, that project did get added. I know there was a lot of interest in that for quite a few years. Also, we got another project added in Allegheny County there at Route 159 Dunlap Creek, because I know that's a posted structure, and also in Augusta County where we have some challenging issues on Route 778 Knightley Mill Road over Middle River. So that's a good program, and we're definitely making good use of those funds. The next steps, I guess, from the 6-year plan, we're having these virtual hearings today. I know the Secretary and others will be participating, others early next month. In May, the Commonwealth Transportation Board will approve the Smart Scale Round 4 consensus scenario based on the feedback they get from these meetings. Then in June, as you heard Mr. Merrill mention, the CTB will adopt the final 6-year plan. So your feedback is incredibly important to us. And we've had a rich reputation here in Staunton District of getting good, engaged feedback, and it definitely makes a difference for final decisions are made on this 6-year plan. So I really appreciate you coming out, and I'll turn it back over to Madam Secretary.
Thank you. It's amazing to me, all the work that's getting done. So anyway, across this entire multimodal system. So thank you. So Kim Pryor, is there anything you would like to add at this point, or does it go over to IT?
No, ma'am, nothing to add. We are in Justin Floyd's capable hands to call on the callers.
Thank you. And so our IT folks, Jen, Michael, and Justin are with us, helping us manage the virtual meeting. And so Justin, do we have some callers this afternoon?
Good afternoon. Yes, we do have a few. On the public queue list is John Bishop. If you'd like to address the meeting, now's the time to do so.
Is that my cue?
Yes, it is. Welcome, Mr. Bishop.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Secretary Valentine. Of course, Mr. Merrill, and all of you for taking the time to hear from us this evening regarding the 6-year improvement program. I'd be remiss if I didn't begin by expressing my ongoing appreciation of the efforts of my friend Randy Kaiser and his staff, whether it's from working with Ed Carter and Matt Smith and the residency staff on all of the different maintenance and development issues, to frankly the endless support of the district staff in our smart scale applications. Their efforts just are deeply appreciated, and I have to always make sure I mention them. On the issue of smart scale, Frederick County, we're also eagerly anticipating the beginning of the Exit 313 project as that rolls around, and of course all the I-81 work and the other ramp improvements that are pending. As you consider the draft plan, I would ask that you look again at the applications for Frederick County that are not currently recommended for funding by staff, particularly those that are focused on Exit 313. You received one through Frederick County and one through the NPO. Through multiple rounds of smart scale, funds have been sought for this critical need area. This area has achieved one of the top economic development scores in the state. However, this important aspect of the score was depressed by the practice of only awarding full points to the top project in the state in that category, creating basically a grading curve situation where that Lynchburg project scored 100 and the next highest economic development scoring project, which is in Fairfax, scored just 42. So by the time you make it down to numbers 13 and 14, where our two Exit 317 applications ended up, even though that's the top of a list of nearly 400 projects, their scores were just 8.25 and 7.33. Now, this situation has occurred with other categories in previous years, but this is not the first time it's been seen with economic development. We believe an effort must be undertaken to develop procedures to better deal with outlier scores rather than letting them somewhat artificially suppress the rest of the state and potentially cause worthy projects to not get funded. Of course, economic development is definitely not the only reason why we need improvement at Exit 317. This area stands as one of the most consistently congested in our region on a daily basis, and it is a rare week that passes without safety incidents. As I noted, this project area has been through multiple rounds of smart scale consideration, and after each round, we have once again gone back with our VDOT partners and the MPO to further study and tweak and refine the applications to, in essence, truly meet the goals of the smart scale program as it was developed, the way it was supposed to work, in my opinion. However, for some reason, this area just continues to be unsuccessful in spite of universal acknowledgement of how serious our issues are in this location. In addition, I must ask that you take a long look at what qualifies projects for consideration in step 2 of smart scale funding. The current practice of only considering projects that would have been funded by district grant had they been eligible for that pot of money unintentionally creates an inequitable situation where you regularly have projects in lower district grant areas like ours go unfunded while projects with lower scores than some of our projects that aren't considered in other areas are funded. And that's certainly, in my opinion, once again, contrary to the goals of the program. Please don't take my stated concerns as criticism. We definitely know how very hard the secretary, the board, and the entire Smart Scale team work to make sure the right projects are funded. I only ask that you look again at this area and its application history and all the work that has been put in to make it worthy of being what Smart Scale projects are exactly supposed to be. We embrace the opportunity to partner with you in that effort and look forward to the chance. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bishop. I'm going to follow up on that 313, and you sound a lot like when I was representing the Lynchburg district about the economic development score. So anyway, I'll check in with Chad Tucker, and I'll ask somebody just to follow up with you.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Bishop, this is Mark Merrill. Thank you for your comments. You're concerned about both 313 and 317, or primarily 317?
I'm sorry, 317. We're tickled about 313.
Okay, yeah, that's
sorry.
We're glad that's going forward. I'm referring to our two applications at 317. One's under the Frederick County banner and one's under the MTO.
Yes,
that would have been a very quick follow-up then.
Yeah, that one's 313. So, Madam Secretary, just FY.
Sorry, I didn't even catch that.
Yes, I got it. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
All right, Justin.
Sure. Next on the queue list, we have Judith McCann Slaughter. If you'd like to address the meeting, now is the time to do so. Try to limit your comments to 3 minutes, and you have the floor.
Good afternoon, Secretary Valentine, members of the CTB board, and Randy Kaiser, and I want to thank you all, first of all, for all of your help and support in our area. And as Mr. Bishop just said, we have tremendous need. Secretary Valentine, members of the CTB board, and I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to comment on the draft 6-year improvement program. My name is Judith McCann Slaughter, and I'm a member of the Frederick County Board of Supervisors and chairperson of Frederick County Transportation Committee. I would like to express our gratitude and appreciation for all of VDOT's assistance on our Crossover Boulevard revenue sharing project, which is now nearing completion, in addition to pending projects such as the Exit 313 bridge and I-81 improvements. As Mr. Bishop just said, we are so pleased to be able to have the funding for our 313 bridge, but we have many more greater needs. As the draft 6-year program currently stands, none of Frederick County applications have been recommended for funding. While all of our projects applied for and more are desperately needed, I would like to place particular emphasis on improvements to Exit 317 at I-81. 2 applications were considered for Exit 317. One of them for a smaller improvement was applied for under the district grant program, and another more complete solution was applied for under the Winchester-Frederick County MPO. This interchange area is the most challenging traffic situation in Frederick County and is growing worse on a daily basis. In addition, the congestion and unsafe conditions in this area are causing negative impacts on other secondary and subdivision roads as commuters and tractor trailers get routed to inappropriate areas. I would like to ask for the support of the Commonwealth Transportation Board, Secretary Valentine, and VDOT in bringing these desperately needed improvements to fruition. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak this evening.
Thank you so much for being here. We really, really appreciate your input.
Thank you.
Right, and next on our public queue list here, we have Jeff Johnston. If you'd like to address the meeting, you have the floor.
Thank you. Secretary Valentine, Mr. Merrill, I'm Jeff Johnston. I'm the Director of Public Works for the City of Staunton. And first of all, I'd like to say what a pleasure it is to not only work with the Staunton District, but to host the Staunton District here within the city limits. And I really just want to let you know how pleased we are to see the smart scale projects within our city limits that are part of the 6-year program. Each one of them is a key part of our overall goal of moving people, whether they be motorists, pedestrians, or cyclists, safely and efficiently into our historic downtown, and also to make sure that visitors who are visiting our historic downtown have good avenues to go out and see a little bit more of Staunton before they return home. I'm confident that as we continue to develop a more robust smart scale program, that will only build on those and go from strength to strength. So again, on behalf of the city, appreciate that and look forward to working with you in the future.
I can't wait until we can do this in person. Mr. Johnson, you live in such a beautiful place.
Yes, please don't tell the other taxpayers. I'm trying to keep it a secret.
There you go. Thank you for joining us.
All right, next on the public call queue, Kathy Rowland, if you'd like to address the meeting, try to keep your comments limited to 3 minutes, and you have the floor. Kathy, if you're with us, you may be muted on your end. We're not getting you, but if you'd like to address the board, now's the time to speak.
You may need to *6.
Can you hear me now?
I can. We can.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I am a homeowner in Rockingham County, and I'm trying to find out if there's any improvements scheduled for drainage on Berry Branch Road.
I will say
if anybody knows.
If you leave your contact information with Justin, who is the IT person, I will have someone follow up with you.
Okay, I did leave in my email. I have talked to Staunton District many times, and I've had success with sometimes people will come out and talk to me, but I get bounced around between Rockingham County, and they keep telling me it's a VDOT issue, and I'm just really frustrated. I'm just not sure where to go from here. So I thought I would check to see if there was anything on the 6-year program for drainage improvements.
Randy Kaiser, could you let Miss Rowland know who might be following up with her?
Absolutely. I definitely will make certain that myself or my district maintenance engineer, which you never have met with either one of us, that will definitely reach out to you and take a look at your situation in the field with you.
So, Miss Rowland, you actually came to the right place.
I did come to the right place?
We may not know the specific answer, but we can get the people who can help you.
Okay, I was going to say, I left my email. And where I live out in the county, that's the best way to contact me. Where I live out here, there's hardly any cell service at all.
Okay, well, then we will use your email address, right, Randy?
Absolutely. I'll be glad to reach out to her. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, Ms. Rowland, thank you so much for calling us.
Okay, thank you all. And I'm looking forward to the improvements on 81 because I won't ride up there because it's scary.
Oh my goodness. That is so true. There was a poll before we actually moved forward with the legislation. It was like 54% of people were afraid to drive.
I don't like to I will take them all around the back roads to get into Harrisonburg. I will not get on 81. I don't know.
Well, we are hoping to improve that.
And I was tickled to hear that you're going to put in a truck lane, 2 truck lanes. That's pretty cool. For the hills, that's going to be good.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for calling.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, I'll confirm I do have the email address for that, the contact
You do?
information there. Yes.
Okay, because otherwise you'd have to call her back.
Sure. That is everyone that I have in the queue. I have had a couple of callers join since we've started, so we'll give them an opportunity to speak. I had a 540 area code ending in 75. If you'd like to address the meeting, you're welcome to do so now. Please introduce yourself and try to keep your comments limited to 3 minutes or so.
Thank you. Hi, can you hear me?
I can.
Great. My name is Luke Jude, and I'm Director of Planning for the City of Waynesboro. I just wanted to thank the CTV for their continued hard work and as well for the funding a number of projects in Waynesboro in this round of Smart Scale. I think they're all critical projects, both for safety reasons and for accessibility in our city. I will say one of the largest of those projects, which just barely slipped into the funding model, was identified by VDOT's recent STAR study on West Main Street. And so I think it's a great opportunity to be a proving ground for that STAR study. But also I believe that project is critical to be funded as soon as possible, since that corridor is identified as one of the most dangerous in our district, and it just recorded its 3rd fatality in 5 years this past weekend when a drunk driver struck and killed a woman on that road. So I would urge the CDB to ensure that project is funded and that work begins as soon as possible. The only other comment I have, and maybe this is better directed to VTrans or one of a higher state office, but a general comment with the Smart Scale process is that when Smart Scale was implemented, I think part of the idea behind it was that projects would be funded and completed within 6 years. And we sort of migrated over time to projects, no funding, even projects not even starting for 6 years. Many of the projects that were selected in this round of Smart Scale, the construction schedule doesn't show them being completed until 2030 or 2031, and at least our projects. I would just say that as a local planner, it's very difficult to accurately predict what the locality's needs will be a decade in the future, and difficult to decide which projects to pursue funding for when the most immediate needs, by nature of being immediate needs, can't wait for Smart Scale. And so I don't know if that is a funding issue and if the state needs to just put a pause or reduce funding for Smart Scale rounds so it can catch up. But it would be great to have a system, and a system would work better for localities if it was back to a situation where we could put in for Smart Scale and expect the project to be completed in 6 years. Thank you again for all of your hard work and for a great round of Smart Scale. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for calling.
All right, and finally we had one more join us. Excuse me, a 540 area code ending in 82. If you would like to make public comment, please introduce yourself and do so now.
Good afternoon. This is Sam Stires. I'm both a private consultant, but also a local resident to Augusta County, and I have no comments to make at this time.
All right, that will conclude the public call queue.
Okay, well, thank you for being here to our previous caller. Kim Pryor, we are keeping track of all the people who have chosen to speak and making sure we do follow up with everybody.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am, we are.
Okay. Ms. Merrill used to do
Quick
with
question.
index cards.
Quick question.
Yes.
But the caller from Waynesboro was asking about the priority. Was it the Hermitage Road project that he was talking about where they had the additional fatality? Was that it, Randy? That barely made the cut with Smart Scale?
Yeah, it actually got funded with that revised scenario when we redid the environmental score. It's right there at the bottom, just barely squeezed in, if I remember correctly. I don't have the list in front of me. I got it here somewhere on my desk. But it's right there on Route 250. And it was a drunk driver that actually ran into a lady. They didn't have their lights on. They were eluding police, and she actually died. It's actually our Board of Supervisors member's wife from Augusta County. It's an unfortunate tragedy that happened this weekend, but yeah, it's in the funding scenario.
Okay, thank you.
Last one was just added when it got revised. The environmental score got revised.
Okay, everybody. Listen, thank you so much again to everybody in Staunton. I think we had 37 people with us. We really appreciate you being with us tonight. We look forward to being in person and getting all this work done. So anyway, thank you all. I will talk to you soon. Thanks. Have a good night.